Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see, I guess. A lot of things happened since my last video, and I guess I owe you a bunch of videos now about my Aprilia and everything that happened regarding my motorcycle life and my home office. The last time I told you about replacement of my tires, which were worn out, and I got a puncture. Since that, battery died completely, and those 50cc engines known to have quite weak alternators installed, so you'd likely want to keep it charged with an external charger or something. I tried to bring it back to life with a charger. Didn't work for a long period of time, so I just bought a new one, and so far so on, and I actually enjoyed the motorcycle for quite a while, and I prepared a lot of content for you guys, and it's all here on this SSD drive. It's an external SanDisk Extreme 2 terabytes drive, and it just died. Some time ago I got a free weekend and I decided that it's time for me to cut new videos for you guys about the Aprilia battery and about moving further, and it just didn't mount. And after searching online, I figured out that these drives are known to have a lot of failures. Unfortunately, I do not know any data recovery services nearby, so I guess we'll just start from scratch. This drive goes to trash bin. I just bought a new one on the sale. It's same 2 terabytes, Samsung T7. I didn't want to go with SanDisk again because the amount of problems that I found online with those drives is ridiculous. And Western Digital, or WD, basically the same thing because both of them are the same company, so I decided to go with this Korean brand instead. Now, back to motorcycles. Aprilia RS660. This is not a full-size motorcycle, it's a moped, and in many countries you get your basic M or AM license with your car license, and it basically means that you can ride everything up to 50 cc's, and you shouldn't go faster than 50 kilometers per hour, and you also shouldn't ride on highways. Those are the limitations of those mopeds. With Aprilia though, it's 2-stroke, which means it's much more powerful than modern 4-stroke 50cc engines, and second, it's geared, which means if you remove restriction from it, which is just a narrowing section in its exhaust, it goes up to 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour, which is quite fast for such a thing, and for someone who doesn't have a motorcycle license. I truly enjoyed this thing during the summer season, and motorcycle gives you a lot of benefits on streets, especially with heavy traffic. You can split lanes, but I decided to sell it for a couple of reasons, and they are directly related to its main positive sides. The good thing about RS660 is that it's 2-stroke and it's geared, and bad things about RS660 are it's 2-stroke and it's geared. Let me explain. While 2-stroke engines have more power, you have to mix fuel with 2-stroke oil, and it gets into the chamber and it burns, and 2-stroke engines smoke a lot. While it's okay for a dirt bike, honestly, I think it doesn't fit city life well. And you look kinda strange when you have this line of blue smoke behind your bike. Besides, 2-stroke engines are quite noisy. To be able to get up to speed with traffic, with heavy traffic in a city, sometimes you need to accelerate a lot and you need to keep it in a higher RPM range, which is like 10, 11K. And it's very high-pitched noise because it's a small displacement engine. And you also have to go through all the gears. It's fun on an open road, redlining your bike while still being under the speed limit, but in a city it's just too much. It's fun for 15 minutes, but then it's just too much when you just want to commute to your work, gym. Instead, in a city, something like a Vespa will make much more sense because you still keep this maneuverability of two-wheeled transport, which is also very small, light, and agile, but at the same time, you don't have to go through gears, and you also have more carrying capacity because you have a hook in front and you have some sort of a trunk under your seat where you can put a second helmet or something, whereas here you basically have a sports bike. Small one, light one, yes, but it's a sports bike, and seating position is not comfortable. And it's also quite harsh, should I say, because it's light. Suspension actually doesn't have a lot of weight moving on it, so small bumps are very painful. Also, quite often in big cities, you have to get on and off highways if you want to travel to a different part of the city fast. This is not possible with RS50 because it's in the moped class or scooter class. You're not allowed to go on highways on that. Last year, I bought this Aprilia for a very simple reason, just to get some experience with a motorcycle, to test myself to see whether I'm going to like it or not, and that goal is completely fulfilled by this bike. I liked it a lot, but I think it's time to move forward. So, long story short, I put it on a local Craigslist, and it's already sold. A very simple option would be to jump on a Vespa, and honestly, I went to showroom, and all these Vespas are actually quite nice. You can get them of any color, there are special editions, they all look really nice. But honestly, from this sports bike aesthetics and everything, I also started watching a lot of MotoGP. I've rooted for Ducati the whole season. I started developing some soft spot for motorcycles in general. So I decided to go and open a full license. I am 35, which means I can go directly to a full unrestricted A category straight away. Since we are in Europe, safety courses are a bit different here. You have to ride 20 to 40 hours, quite a comprehensive training, should I say. And I was proposed to go with A2 first, which is a smaller displacement and limitation in terms of power, but I decided to go directly to the unrestricted A. I can always buy a restricted bike or a smaller displacement bike with a full-size license, but not the vice versa. And I went to a safety course, and I went through a training process, and it took me 2 months plus exams. During that period, I was riding a Honda NC750, I believe, with a parallel twin engine. And honestly, there were 2 problems for me to ride that bike after 50cc geared moped. Overall, controls are absolutely the same. Everything is absolutely the same. Clutch, engaging point, braking technique, rear brake, front brake, the way weight distributes when you brake, when you accelerate, it's absolutely the same. So I can guarantee that those 50cc mopeds will teach you a lot about just riding. There were 2 main problems. First, this thing was super heavy after my Aprilia, which is closer to a bicycle, I think, than a real motorcycle in terms of weight. It was really scary sometimes when I was stopping, starting, leaning the bike a bit. It was super scary to drop it. Gladly, I didn't drop it at all. And besides that, it was covered with some protection, but the bike was not new. And the bike was dropped many times. As a result, it had a misaligned handlebar, which was kind of tricky to me. Every time you start, you want to sit straight and bike goes to a side because it really had like a asymmetrical handlebar. So I got used to it, of course, but it was kind of strange. And because of the overall condition of the bike, which is the second problem, clutch was also super heavy. It was not a hydraulic clutch, it was just a normal cable clutch. And it was super heavy because it was rusty. The bike was stored all outside under heavy rain, under snow. It was really rusty in some places. Of course, it was also dropped to both left and right side. So scratches, dents, and so forth, so on. I really enjoyed the process. I liked this bike. And I also I would say that despite all the hate regarding parallel twin engines, I would say the bike was pretty much okay. It all culminated with me passing exams and getting my first unrestricted motorcycle driving license. I was super happy about it. I passed exams the first time I tried. It was partially luck because on that day there was some sort of an event or something and there was not many people on the streets. So I got kind of lucky there. But other than that, I managed to complete the assignment, ride around the city, according to traffic laws, everything went fine. So, we have an unrestricted motorcycle license. We just sold our Aprilia. I think it's a very good time for us to pick up a new bike. Let's discuss options. I must admit that I was thinking about motorcycles long before I got this Aprilia. When I was in my 20s, I considered buying a motorcycle. And I thought about a cruiser because cruisers are safer in terms of not pushing you to ride aggressively. Because sports bikes, similar to sport cars, they like being ridden fast, aggressively. You can say that you will ride your Gixxer or whatever you have slow. Yes, you can do that. You can ride a Panigale slow if you want to. But that is going to be a torture because the bike is designed to ride fast, and it basically asks for it every time you go out. So I always thought that if I'm going to buy a bike, it's going to be a cruiser, and not a big one because I'm relatively short and a lightweight, so I likely will struggle controlling those huge Harley. But that was long ago, and these days, honestly, I didn't try cruisers at all, and if we return back to cruisers, we still have Harley-Davidson Sportster. And the moment you think about a cruising bike, Harley-Davidson is the one that comes to your mind, usually. Sportster is a very good option, but new Sportster is a different bike, and new Harleys are really expensive for me, so I thought about getting maybe a used one. However, if you are okay with not having the HD badge, the really first recommendation for beginners like me, very first option that you will likely stumble on when talking about beginner cruisers is a Honda Rebel. And I actually like this bike. It looks nice. It is likely super reliable. It is also likely easy to ride because it's on the lightweight side compared to other cruisers at least. And overall, I like its aesthetics. It's a very popular bike, which means you have a lot of support. Community is pretty big. You also have a lot of spare parts. You have a lot of modifications available to you. So that's definitely a good option. I would definitely put it next on my list after a Sportster. Now, cruisers are kind of specific bikes. They are suitable for highways, for cruising. Whereas I live in a city, and quite often you want something a bit more agile. And the best bike for city riding is likely a naked bike with a relatively upright position. Naked bike is a very popular type of a bike for city riding and for occasional track days because some of them are really based on sports bikes with a slight change to its geometry, and it basically has a handlebar instead of clip-ons. Other than that, they usually have same engines, similar suspension setup, which kind of gives you a lot of opportunities to ride faster when you want to. There are naked alternatives to many popular bikes such as S1000RR, S1000R, Panigale, Street Fighter, Yamaha R7, MT-07, and so far so on. When it comes to naked bikes, I always had a soft spot for a KTM Duke. 390 is probably the best beginning point if you want to have a good naked bike, beginner friendly, quite agile, quite lightweight. I'm not sure about their reliability, and KTM now has financial problems, but I still think it's a very good naked bike. So when talking about nakeds, we'll put it there. Alternatively, I have a dream of owning a Ducati at some point, and I went to a local Ducati dealership. I really liked Scrambler, which is a somewhat underestimated bike to my opinion. It might be a bit on the expensive side because it's a Ducati, but it's a very simple Ducati, and I tried to sit on it and I found it very comfortable for me for my height because I'm a short person, and Ducati Scrambler is a very approachable bike for a beginner. And finally, despite me always thinking about a cruiser, I must admit that Aprilia really melted that ice between me and sports bikes. I figured out that sports bikes are different in terms of sitting position, but they are not that bad actually. I always thought they are extremely uncomfortable and unusable in the city. And Aprilia showed me that it's still doable. And there are many very cool sports bikes. Not all of them are approachable for beginners, both in terms of price and power, also weight and how tall they are because of geometry of sports bikes, how they are designed to be able to lean into corners. But surprisingly, there are a lot of beginner-friendly sports bikes. And the top one pick for me, after trying all those bikes and sitting on those, is actually a Yamaha R3. First of all, I personally think it looks nice. It's a very nice bike with aggressive design that is kind of inspired by upper level Yamaha superbikes. At the same time, clip-ons are kind of raised, which means that sitting position is more upright and it's more comfortable for a beginner rider. It's also quite low. I'm able to flat foot on both sides, and overall, I really liked the bike. Components-wise, I would say it's on the weak side, but at the same time, pricing is approachable. And with that amount of power, you likely don't need advanced electronics like traction control. You have ABS, which is important for a beginner who can grab front brake in panic. ABS will save you from that. Aside from that, there is a KTM RC, which I personally don't like stylistically. Also, it's a single-cylinder bike, which is, I don't know, it might be kind of rough, considering how it's set up for being a sports bike. If I decide to get a sports bike under 400cc, for me, that's clearly an R3. I think that's a winner. Alternatively, there is a very popular option, a Kawasaki Ninja, for those who like green colors. It's a top one choice. I just don't feel anything towards it. I think that its design is kind of strange. Its nose is kind of, I don't know, it's definitely a Japanese design, and it's definitely a unique design. So if it works for you, I would definitely recommend Ninja 400. It's a very good bike. Very beginner friendly, very popular. You can find a lot of very positive reviews towards this bike. So with this, we have some kind of an unbalanced mix between Sportster and relatively powerful Scrambler, and then kind of a weak sports bikes in the form of R3. So, in addition to that, I would definitely consider getting one step above. With 400cc bikes, quite often you can hear that people sell them within 3 months to a year, which means I will be on the market for another bike quite soon, and I will lose some money on buying a bike and then selling it on the second-hand market. So alternatively, we can go with Yamaha R7, and if you are going with the Ninja 400, you can go up to Ninja 650. And I really like R7. I like its aggressive design, but when you sit on such a bike for the first time, you will be surprised. If everything you tried before that is just street bikes with lower seat height and something lightweight and beginner friendly, the moment you sit on a proper sports bike, things get very different. It's very tall, heavy in its upper part, which means the central mass point is a bit higher to make it more applicable. As a beginner, I really felt uncomfortable on it. Clip-ons are much lower than on R3. And I wasn't able to flat foot it. And it was, I don't know, really sketchy, should I say. At the same time, R7 is praised for its parallel twin engine, quite powerful one, very torquey from the low end. But at the same time, it lacks anything at the top because R7 basically has the same engine as MT-07. So if you are into nakeds and you like design of MT series, MT-07 might be a better choice than R7. When talking about nakeds, I didn't consider MT-03 or MT-07. There's a very simple reason for that. I didn't like those. Motorcycle is something that you buy for your pure joy and pleasure, not because it's a meaningful form of transportation. Because honestly, it is not. Weather conditions, not being able to carry around weight if you're not on a BMW GS, of course. So MT-03, MT-07 are also great options if you are into those things. Another memorable contender would be Triumph. Actually, Triumphs are quite interesting bikes, and there is one specific bike that I liked. It's kind of a modern one. It's called Triumph Trident 660. I liked its design. I liked the sound of this three-cylinder engine, which is kind of a Triumph thing, I would say. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test ride it. And then, since I decided to try R7, there was another bike, a very special one to me. The moment I bought Aprilia RS660, I wasn't actually into motorcycles. I just knew that this Aprilia RS660 existed because it's kind of a special case of being able to try a motorcycle without having a motorcycle license. But the moment I bought it, I started looking more into Aprilias. And right now, Aprilia doesn't have a lot of bikes in its lineup, but there is one very special bike that I liked the moment I saw it online, and it is RS660. This is a very beautiful bike with a relatively popular these days parallel twin 270-degree crank, which means it kind of sounds and feels somewhat close to V2, at least that's what some people say online. And what sets this bike apart from the rest of its competitors within 650 class is that it comes with the first-class electronics. It has all sorts of traction controls, wheelie controls, cornering ABS, riding modes, not mentioning that the bike is absolutely gorgeous. It's very similar to current RSV4, which is a top-of-the-line Italian bike from Aprilia. And there is this very special acid gold color, which they used in all marketing materials. Despite the name of the color being acid gold, it's not gold. It's more of acid yellow, gray, and something like that. But it doesn't look like a beginner bike. It's very powerful. It comes with the very sticky tires and all this electronics and everything and geometry. Some people say that it is on a comfortable side because clip-ons are not as low as, let's say, R7. And people also praise its engine, despite saying that there is some flat part in its torque curve somewhere in the mid-range. It actually has some top end compared to R7, which doesn't have anything on the top end. And the bike just looks amazing. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test ride it either. I was able to find one dealer outside of the city, which had one arriving soon, and The moment it arrived, the moment they unpacked it, I went there and I sat on the bike, and it actually disappointed me. Well, first of all, it was in a black color. I don't know. I didn't like how it looks on this bike after seeing it in acid gold online. But after sitting on it, it was very tall for me. I wasn't able to touch the ground. I was tippy-toeing on both sides. And it wasn't comfortable either. So despite people saying that it's a comfortable bike with slightly upper handlebars and everything, it is not. Well, everything comes in comparison. Maybe it's not an R6, and maybe it's even not as bad as R7, but compared to everything else I tried, it's closer to R7 than a naked bike, I would say. For those who want an upright position, they have Aprilia Tuono. I just don't like how it looks, honestly. Again, everyone has their own preferences. But that acid gold color, it's so sexy, honestly. But yeah, I tried it. It is not beginner friendly from the perspective of sitting on it. At least I didn't feel like that. It is also quite powerful, and at the same time, it is not heavy. RS660 is likely the lightest bike in its category, and is definitely one of the lightest sports bikes within anything near that engine displacement. So, going top to bottom, Sportster. That's a very good option to get into Harleys. If I would want to have something that will last and something that would be cool at the same time, I would go with a Sportster. Sportsters exist longer than I do, and it's a very cool bike. Maybe slightly expensive. Also, getting parts for a Harley here in Eastern Europe is a pain in the ass, of course. This is where Rebel shines. Rebel is quite a dull bike in terms of controls, in terms of its engine, but it's very beginner friendly. So, if you want a beginner-friendly bike, cruisers overall are a good option because they have very low seat and it's easy to touch ground whenever you need to. And both Sportster and especially Rebel are more on the lightweight side of cruisers, which means it's even more approachable to beginners. Nakeds. I'm considering a Ducati Scrambler, which is a very specific bike, because it's a scrambler, which means it has somewhat knobby tires, and it likely means you can go on gravel. At the same time, it's a Ducati, which means it's expensive, and being in Europe makes it more approachable than buying a Ducati in the US, for example. But yeah, pros and cons again. Trident 660 looks quite interesting, and KTM Duke is a default option for a naked bike, I think, especially 390 for a beginner. That's a no-brainer. And sports bikes, I think that the best option that you can start with is Yamaha R3 or Ninja 400 if you like how it looks. And then there is R7 or 650 for those who want to make it last longer for you and to grow into your bike. And there is extremely beautiful Aprilia 660 that I still see in my dreams, especially the acid gold color, which is too tall for me, kinda heavy and kinda scary. Buying a 650 as your first bike is not absolutely stupid, I would say. It kinda makes sense to follow with people who say that it will give you a chance to grow into your bike, but at the same time, do not underestimate 400cc category, because many people who say that they outgrown their bikes, they actually just got used to their acceleration. The first time I tried 50cc, I was amazed with how fast that is. But after riding it just for a couple of days, I got used to it. I'm pretty sure you can get used to any sort of a bike and it won't scare you. Maybe with exception of some crazy machines, of course. So it depends on what you're looking for. What kind of a bike, what kind of a ride. It's up to you. And if we go with 650 class, I will likely make things harder for me, especially during the first couple of months while getting used to a bike. Because again, R3 is very comfortable, very easy, very approachable, and it's very similar to my RS50, should I say. A bit more heavyweight, of course, more power. It's a full-sized bike which can go on a highway, you can actually race it, and you can succeed on it. But it still feels very friendly. RS660, R7, not so much. But that acid gold color though. In any case, after going through all these bikes, sitting on them, trying them, I think I've made my choice. But what would you choose in my place? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you would like to know what I decided to go with and you're interested in my future motorcycle videos, please put a like and subscribe onto my channel. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye bye.